So lonely, the days are so sad.
In 1996, a 25-year-old cancer survivor released a song that spent 4 weeks at #1 on the country charts. It was the only hit he'd ever have. And when he passed away 18 years later, that one song is still the reason the whole world remembers his name. Country music has always been about heartbreak, but some of the saddest stories in the genre never made it into the lyrics. They happened after the song ended. Today, we're counting down 10 artists who climbed to the top of the charts, tasted everything they dreamed of, and then watched it disappear. Stick around, because our #1 pick isn't just a sad story. It's one of the most quietly devastating true stories in the history of the genre. Let's get into it.
He might blow up and kill this man.
Number 10. Ricochet, Daddy's Money, 1996. Let's start with a band that had everything a mid-90s country act needed to blow up. 5 guys, tight harmonies, and a song that radio couldn't stop playing. Daddy's Money shot up the charts and turned Ricochet into an overnight sensation on the Nashville scene. Here's the part that stings, though. The band kept making music for years afterward. Solid albums, respected musicianship, but radio had already moved on to the next shiny new thing. And none of their follow-up singles ever came close to that first spark. They didn't fade because they got worse. They faded because the industry only had room for one moment, and they'd already used it. Several members of Ricochet were seasoned Nashville session players before the band even formed, meaning some of them had already played on other artists' hits long before they got one of their own. But being forgotten by radio is one kind of heartbreak.
And look who's looking at me.
Our next artist faced something a lot more personal, a media firestorm that made her one perfect song almost impossible to enjoy.
She's got her daddy's money, her mama's good looks.
Number 9. Chelly Wright, Single White Female, 1999. Chelly Wright's Single White Female hit #1 and made her look like the next great female voice in country music.
Catch your eye, but I'm so shy. I'm hoping and praying that today's edition.
Critics loved it. Fans loved it. For a moment, everything lined up perfectly. But behind the scenes, Wright was carrying a secret she wasn't allowed to tell anyone in an industry that, at the time, had zero tolerance for it. Years later, she came forward publicly about her identity, and by her own account, the pressure of hiding who she was during her rise nearly broke her. The song that should have launched a decade-long career became, instead, a single bright flash in a much harder story. Wright's later decision to speak openly about her life made her one of the first major country artists to do so, a move that reportedly cost her airplay on some stations. Even years after her hit had already faded. That kind of heartbreak came from what an artist had to hide. Our next one-hit wonders story is almost the opposite. A song so much bigger than the band that it swallowed them whole.
I'm not sure if I should have put it in writing. It might have been a little reckless, a little bit.
Number 8. Confederate Railroad, Trashy Women, 1993.
I was raised in a sophisticated kind of style.
Trashy Women was impossible to escape in 1993. It was funny, it was rowdy, and it turned Confederate Railroad into a household name almost overnight.
And their hair is dyed. Too much lips.
Here's the heartbreak, though. The band had real range, ballads, story songs, genuine songwriting talent. But once a novelty song becomes your signature, it's almost impossible to convince fans or radio programmers that you're capable of anything else.
Partner, son, she ain't no kid. That's a cocktail waiting.
For the rest of their career, no matter what they released, audiences just wanted that one song again.
When they wear their clothes too tight and they're
It's one of the cruelest tricks in the music business. Sometimes the song that makes you famous is also the song that keeps you from ever being taken seriously again.
yeah, and I like 'em brassy. I like 'em brazen and bold.
Being trapped by your own hit is rough. But what happens when your hit is a beautiful, aching love song, and it still isn't enough to build a career on? That's next.
It's a little on the trashy side.
Number 7. John Berry, Your Love Amazes Me, 1994.
Of the world, I've seen.
Your Love Amazes Me is one of the most genuinely beautiful vocal performances of the 1990s.
I've seen a sunset that make you cry.
John Berry had the pipes, the songwriting instincts, and the kind of voice that made program directors sit up and take notice.
Never came. I got down on my knees out.
But right as his star was rising, Berry was privately dealing with a serious health scare that sidelined him at the exact moment his momentum mattered most.
You could save me. Your love amazes me.
By the time he was back on his feet, the industry, and radio's attention span, had already moved forward without him.
Faithfully, your love amazes me.
Despite never repeating that level of chart success, Berry kept recording and performing for decades afterward, building a loyal fan base that stuck with him long after mainstream radio stopped calling.
You're the only one for me.
Sometimes the world takes an opportunity away from you. Sometimes, though, the heartbreak comes from an illness the artist never fully talks about.
Love amazes me.
Until it's too late to make up for lost time. Let's talk about our next entry.
Give me something to believe in. Forever faithful.
Number 6. Wade Hayes, Old Enough to Know Better, 1995.
Arrange me right. That just leaves me to blame. When I
Wade Hayes hit number 1 with Old Enough to Know Better, a classic slice of traditional 90s country that made him look like the genre's next great honky-tonk hero.
When the weekend's gone, I won't have a dime to spare.
He kept releasing music for years, and traditionalist fans stayed loyal. But as country radio shifted toward a slicker, more pop-influenced sound, artists like Hayes found themselves increasingly squeezed out of the spotlight they'd once owned.
Have to know better, but I'm still too young to care.
Then, years later, Hayes faced a serious cancer diagnosis, fighting it largely outside the public eye, while the industry that once celebrated him had mostly moved on. Many fans and critics still argue that Hayes was one of the most talented traditional country vocalists of his era, and that the genre's shift away from that sound is exactly why his career never got the second act it deserved.
I don't know how I got to work, but I sure know I'm.
So far, every heartbreak on this list has been about opportunity slipping away. Our next story is different. It's about a song so massive that it made the entire genre roll its eyes.
Too young to care. I'm old enough.
And the artist has been trying to shake the punchline ever since. Number 5. Ty England, Should Have Asked Her Faster, 1995.
She was talking to some cowboy in the corner.
Ty England's Should Have Asked Her Faster is one of those songs that, if you were listening to country radio in the mid-90s, you absolutely remember.
It's a real disaster. I should have asked her faster.
It's catchy, it's clever, and it made England look like the next arena headliner.
Disaster. I should have asked you faster.
Here's the twist, though. England had spent years as a guitarist and background player before stepping into the spotlight himself, including time supporting one of the biggest names in the genre.
I should have asked you faster. But wait.
When his own solo career didn't sustain past that first hit, he eventually returned to that same behind-the-scenes role. It's a quiet kind of heartbreak, getting your one moment center stage, and then going right back to the wings.
Forgot her name. A natural disaster.
England and that superstar friend of his had been close since childhood, long before either of them had a record deal, which makes his return to a supporting role feel less like a demotion and more like coming home.
In a red hot minute, like flash.
Not every one-hit wonder disappeared from music altogether. Some of them stayed incredibly famous, just not for singing.
I should have asked her faster.
Our next entry proves that sometimes a song becomes so identified with one moment in someone's life that it overshadows everything else they ever do.
But I waited too long. In a red hot minute.
Number 4. Deanna Carter, Strawberry Wine, 1996.
And he had a car. Yeah.
Strawberry Wine didn't just top the charts, it became one of the defining coming-of-age songs in country music history.
I come back to this place just to
It won the CMA Award for Song of the Year. It made Deanna Carter a star seemingly overnight.
remember the taste of strawberry wine.
And here's the heartbreak. Carter had a genuinely strong career afterward, with more charting singles and albums. But no matter what she released, nothing ever came close to matching the cultural weight of that one song.
Saw everything, my first taste of love.
Ask a casual country fan to name a Deanna Carter song today, and almost everyone says the same one. It's a strange kind of fame, being permanently linked to a single perfect moment, while the rest of your work quietly gets left out of the story.
Memories, they last like strawberry wine.
Some critics have argued that Strawberry Wine, being such a massive crossover success, actually worked against Carter in Nashville. With some insiders reportedly viewing her as more of a pop-leaning artist than a true country traditionalist.
A few cards and letters and one long
A
distance.
label that followed her for years. Being overshadowed by your own masterpiece is one kind of heartbreak. But what happens when a song becomes so big, so fast, that it turns into a full-blown cultural phenomenon and then a cultural punching bag?
Is it really him or the loss of
Buckle up, because our next two entries are about to get a lot bigger and a lot sadder.
17? The hot July moon.
We're halfway through the list, and if you think we've saved the biggest heartbreak for last, you have no idea. Let's keep going. Don't forget to subscribe.
Much, yeah.
Number 3. Big and Rich, Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy, 2004.
Save a horse, ride a cowboy. Everybody says.
Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy was a genuine phenomenon. It crossed over onto pop radio, sold millions of copies, and turned Big and Rich into the most talked-about duo in country music almost overnight.
Back of my truck bed as I was getting buzzed on suds.
But that same song became a lightning rod. Traditionalist critics said it represented everything wrong with where country music was headed.
Had me begging for salvation all night long.
Too much crossover, too little twang. The duo kept releasing music together for years afterward, and neither of them ever disappeared. But in the mind of the average casual listener, they will forever be defined by 3 minutes of one enormous, inescapable single.
Save a horse, ride a cowboy. What?
And every serious artistic statement they made after that got a fraction of the attention. Both members of Big and Rich had spent over a decade as songwriters and collaborators in Nashville's Music Row trenches before that single made them famous almost overnight. Meaning the overnight success was actually more than 10 years in the making. Now we're getting to the two entries that define what a one-hit wonder even means in country music. And our number 2 pick might be the most famous and most misunderstood one-hit wonder in the entire genre's history.
Save a horse, ride a cowboy.
Number 2, Billy Ray Cyrus, Achy Breaky Heart, 1992.
Burn my clothes when I'm gone. Oh, you can tell your friend.
There may not be a more famous one-hit wonder in the history of American music, in any genre, than Achy Breaky Heart.
He might blow up and kill this man.
It sold millions of copies. It launched a dance craze. For a few months in 1992, Billy Ray Cyrus was arguably the biggest star in the entire country music industry. And then the backlash came, hard and fast.
Just what a fool I've been, and laugh and joke about me on the phone.
Critics and even fellow artists mocked the song as a novelty, a symbol of everything shallow about country music's mainstream crossover moment.
Just don't think you'd understand. And if you tell my heart,
Cyrus spent years afterward trying to be taken seriously as a songwriter and performer, and by most accounts, he never fully escaped that shadow.
up and kill this man.
Here's the truly heartbreaking twist, though. Decades later, his own daughter would go on to become one of the biggest pop stars in the world.
Don't tell my heart, my achy breaky heart.
In part by embracing reinvention, in a way her father never really got the chance to. For years, Cyrus was reportedly hesitant to fully engage with the song's legacy, given how much mockery it brought him.
You can tell my feet to hit the floor.
Before eventually leaning into it later in his career, and finding a strange kind of peace with the very hit that once threatened to define him as a joke.
Or tell your brother Cliff, whose fist can tell me.
Being famous for a song people made fun of is heartbreaking in its own way. But our number 1 entry today isn't about mockery or missed timing or industry politics. It's about a man who almost didn't live long enough to record his one-hit song at all.
You can tell your mom I moved to Arkansas. You can tell your
And who spent the rest of his life turning that pain into something meaningful for other people.
my heart, my achy breaky heart. He might blow up and kill.
Number 1, Kevin Sharp, Nobody Knows, 1996.
I pretend that I'm glad you went away.
As a teenager, Kevin Sharp was diagnosed with a rare and aggressive form of bone cancer. He underwent years of grueling chemotherapy and radiation, losing all of his hair, and doctors weren't sure he'd survive at all.
Just keep thinking about the love that we had. I'm missing you.
Sharp's one wish, granted through the Make-A-Wish Foundation, was to meet a major music producer. That single wish changed the entire course of his life. It led to a record deal.
Why didn't I say things I needed to say?
And in 1996, his cover of Nobody Knows shot to number 1 on the country charts, staying there for a month. Here's the part that makes this the most heartbreaking entry on our entire list. Sharp never had another major hit after that, but instead of chasing the fame, he spent the following years as a motivational speaker and Make-A-Wish advocate.
Even if nobody knows, I'm crying inside.
Writing a book about surviving cancer and touring the country to speak directly with other patients and families going through the same nightmare he'd survived.
So lonely, the days are so sad.
For him, that one song wasn't the whole story. It was the door that let him spend the rest of his life helping other people walk through it too.
Just like a jigsaw puzzle, it's been torn all apart.
Kevin Sharp passed away in 2014, at just 43 years old, from complications following stomach surgery. He never had a second hit song, But to the thousands of cancer patients and families he spoke to personally over the years, his voice meant a lot more than a single chart position ever could.
Know me, the days are so sad, and we just keep thinking about.
In country music, we usually measure impact by the size of the hit. Kevin Sharp's story is a reminder that sometimes the smallest catalog leaves the deepest mark.
Tumbling down, I can see it so clearly.
10 artists, 10 songs that defined a moment, 10 stories that remind us fame in country music has never been just about the charts. It's about what happens to the people behind the songs once the spotlight moves on. So here's our question of the day. Which country one-hit wonder do you think we missed? Drop the song title in the comments below. We read every single one, and we might just build a part 2 out of your suggestions. And if this list hit you right in the chest, you're going to want to see our video on the country legends who almost quit music for good before one phone call changed everything. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and we'll see you in the next one.